I'd like to invite, Siva and PRIXIT, from Capgemini, to present their topic on improving business performance and data predictability using continuous improvement techniques. Welcome, Shiva and PRIXIT. Let me introduce both the speakers today. Shiva has got 20 plus years of experience with a demonstrated history of process transformation in the telecom and other software industries. A strong professional skill in process excellence, metrics, statistical and data analysis, agile methods, including the SAFe framework. He has led multiple initiatives like CMMI at one hand, whereas at the same time on efficiency improvement and project management aspects. PRIXIT also brings in 24 years of experience covering program management, quality assurance, change management, and driving improvements using various quality and business excellence models. In his leadership role, he is also responsible to synergize the quality team for a better performance, motivation, and providing strategic direction. So Siva and PRIXIT, welcome to HMBP 2021. We'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can enable this. I will also be your timekeeper, so your 25 minutes start now.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pradeep. So we'll get started. Yeah, the slide is up. We can start, Pashit. Yeah.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. To the next slide. Okay. Thanks QI and Isaka, first of all, for providing us the opportunity to share our practices. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll start from here. Capgemini Engineering is a global business line under Capgemini. Capgemini as a group, and then this was formed with the amalgamation of Altron, which was acquired by Capgemini in 2020, plus the Capgemini's business unit, which was into digital engineering and manufacturing space. So the global business unit, it consists of around 52,000 people, which 20,000 are based out in India. It is spread across 30 countries, and we support primarily the core engineering domains like aerospace, automotive, medical, and of course telecom. So these are the prime domains which we support. And that is where we deploy our services and team members. Yeah, Shiva. Okay, so we as an organization are not new to CMMI and not new to the high level maturity practices. It's almost more than a decade and a half, so more than 16 years of our experience into this. Now, what has changed? So the change has happened in terms of the business we are getting from the customer. The customers are also under tremendous pressure to deliver quickly, to meet, to beat the competition, and hence, they are looking at delivering in quicker and more faster way. Now, the idea there was that, the one I think from my past experience, I can say that, getting into agile mode or using agile practices will exempt you from adopting CMMI practices. And this is not a statement I'm making. This was a fact. And then once you are adopting agile practices, that means you cannot adopt CMMI Highmat practices. Idea here within the organization was, and in this business unit was, that we are not going to compromise on the agility or the agile philosophy when we are implementing the CMMI Highmat practices. We also need to put up the same predictability, same process models like what we use for life cycles. So idea there was that we synergize agile and CMMI practices, and then the value is added to the organization and to the team. Yeah, sure. This is the overall kind of a framework and a solution to what we had put in place. So we can look at the drivers. The drivers are coming from in terms of the business performance, and the agile framework there supports in putting our products and services, the customer's products and services early to market and to beat the competition. And how do we do it is in terms of we putting a process infrastructure, a tools infrastructure in terms of dev agility, and which is supported and driven through Agile Center of Excellence. Agile Center of Excellence does not work in silos, and it is aligned with the business performance and is also aligned with the continual improvement framework. Now, for the continual improvement framework, we have adopted the practices from the CMMI, where we are looking at prediction and then resulting in improvement in productivity and cycle time reductions. So more details will follow from my colleague Shiva on this. Over to you, Shiva.
Thank you, Prashit. Thank you, Prashit, for setting up the base. As we heard, why part, it's my honor to present how part, rather I would say the solutioning part of how we could able to unbox this mystery. So before I move into the how part, I just want to re-emphasize on the need for Agile. So as everybody knows that, or the data suggests that almost every second project or every second client, starting from the tier 1 customer or to the medium customer, wanted to follow the Agile way of working. They want a faster releases, early to market sort of thing. And with this visual connect, the geographic boundaries are no longer an issue sort of thing. As much as we welcome and happy to implement Agile framework to the every customer, but when we started rolling out the Agile framework, we consciously took a call of having a disciplined Agile. The disciplined Agile, or I would even say it's adding method to madness. So that's the easiest word to adapt it. So from the very first beginning, we created a healthy environment to break the false myth of Agile meant no process. Agile meant no documentation. So we wanted to break that myth. We want to create a matured Agile framework. And the moment the matured framework, it got stuck, where the word the matured stuck at, we could only closely relate to CMI. So CMI manifesto helped us to create this Agile metric sort of thing. So how do we do this? It's simple as it is. We call it as Agile and CMI synthesis, or we call it a synergy sort of thing. We mirrored the CMI maturity framework and arrived on an equivalent model. And we coined ourselves the model called DBTC model. So I repeat, DBTC model. Doing Agile is the D and being Agile is the B. From being Agile, how far you could move from thinking Agile, and invariably how could able to culturally part of the Agile sort of thing. So this, we take pride in claiming this DBTC model. Like this CMI, every step it has a continuous framework from doing Agile from the base level to the high maturity practices sort of thing. Similar to the CMI maturity, we could able to define various characteristics, starting from setting up of a project process, then moving to the organization process through the Agile Center of Excellence team, and more importantly, building a data-driven activity, predicting the outcomes relevant to Agile, and more importantly, having a continuous improvement framework. Okay, we just could able to adopt the CMI framework and replicate to the Agile success sort of. So this model actually is worked in a favor because since, as Prashit was referring, we had a legacy of being in CMI for close to a decade and a half. We had an advantage of selling this same model to the larger team, basically saying that they could able to connect it so easily, where it has become a part of every Agile project. On a lighter note, even one project manager used to say that this DBTC word seems to be so catchy. How about we make it as a trademark or a brand sort of thing? So that's how this model got evolved over the period. Okay. Now then we have a model. Once we have this specific model framework, what was our plan? The next big jump is to roll out that in a ground level. That's the biggest challenge. Defining the model is a straightforward case. However, CMI also helped us, but making it to roll out at the ground level was a major challenge. To start with, we had an advantage of being run, this Agile Center of Excellence being run by quality and delivery team. We could able to arrive on a result called 3-layered approach. Okay, I'll brief about the 3-layered approach, but the important point is that each layer complement other layers, and more importantly, it does works in a unison. It may still work on an isolation mode, but when it works in unison, it gives a lot of benefits out of it. Just to touch upon this first layer, which is called the process, method, or measurement layer, I call it as a foundation layer. Every process asserts the templates and the methodologies was built in this first layer, The important aspect what we did is we also included the metric system in the first layer. And the second layer we call as a dev agility tool layer. Basically, we identify the list of specific tools for a software engineering that will surely help us to improve the productivity part. So that's the second layer which you could able to build on. The third layer basically focuses on the improvement, and thereby we could identify the process flow in each project and optimize the process flow without compromising the quality. So these are the three layers I would dig deep upon it. The complete DBTC framework works on this three layer, and the crux of the presentation will be explaining about these three layers. Layer one, as I said, the basic or the foundation layer is built at a bottom level with the expertise we gained over the decades. Okay, we had a significant advantage of implementing the process implementation across projects across globe. That helps us to extend the same thing in the Agile COE also. So as a first step, we could able to develop some sort of a world-class Agile process, which includes everything under the sun, the assets, the guidelines, the techniques, the models, everything we could able to bring under the Agile COE umbrella. And best part is that we also in parallel created an excellent infrastructure for upskilling the people team. So it's not only about the training, we do also run an internal certification program to upskill the people to layer above the Agile requirements sort of thing. What I'm saying may sound very normal. Every company when follows through the Agile, they follow the same way. But remember the word I used, discipline Agile. So the discipline Agile is where it leverages the advantage. So where in addition to the Agile asset and also the wrapper of metric system, we also able to develop a good governance mechanism over the existing framework. So we built a very good metric system, but without compromising any of the Agile manifesto. So we never wanted to rub the shoulders with the Agilians. We ensure that as a delivery team, as a project team, they don't need to do any additional activities. They just need to ensure that they have in-house tools and the data could able to collect automatically. So like any other life cycle model, starting from waterfall or any other model, with this system, we could easily able to generate the metrics baseline even for the Agile projects, which seems to be a major challenge a decade ago. But last 3 cycles, 6 cycles, we could easily generate the metrics data on the baseline. And this formed the base. The best part of the process performance, which helps us to create the base sort of thing. So with this baseline, we could able to create the various process performance model Agile programs. The unique part is that we never force fit any of the process performance model like the schedule variance or the defect part. This we try to relate closer to the Agile core metrics. So we try to predict the core Agile metrics like the content adherence, or is there a probability of meeting the technical depth? What is the probability of getting the customer reported defects? So our model was in and out about the Agile activity, and our system, our metrics baseline, and our assets helped us sort of thing. So I would put away that the process plus metric system, the first layer, gave us a strong foothold in providing the accuracy of the prediction.
So I like to add on to that, Shiva. I think important part on Shiva has already emphasized on the process, the metrics part, and how we have built that infrastructure. One, the infrastructure was built by the Agile practitioners. So not many quality team members, so-called, were involved into it. Second part is the encouraging and rewarding people who share practices or they get improvements while deploying Agile practices through various forums. And we also encourage them to quantify the benefits while they have deployed Agile practices. It was a real challenge initially, but then yes, it took us some time, and that helped us in building that culture also.
Thank you. So moving on to the second layer, I call as a diversity layer. So we also favor in calling it as a digital layer because this complete set of tools we could able to make it in cloud platform, and we encourage the project team to choose as a part of their project life cycle that satisfies the customer requirement. So we have close to a set of 50 tools, starting from the tracking perspective, the Jira effectiveness, or say the Confluence tool, or to improve the code quality, the Sonar Cube, or for the automation perspective, the Python tool. So we created a numerous opportunities for the project team to explore. and ensure that this can be part of their regular ongoing activity rather keeping it in an isolated manner. The uniqueness of is that this is not used in a silos but integrated into a measurement system. So where a project, let's say if I'm going to use a sonar cube or any other cube, they will be constantly saying that what is my defective mole efficiency. If I'm going to use a test automation tool, what is the X percentage of effort I'm going to save it by using the selected tool. So we could able to seamlessly integrate with the measurement system, thereby our overall integrated process performance model work towards achieving the timelines or whatever the code quality in line with the debugability sort of thing. So this gave us an additional advantage of using the digital platform, and also make sure that those digital platforms will also help us to reduce the cycle time and more importantly improve our code quality sort of thing. So this is
Correct.
what the second layer I would say.
Yeah, I think an important point here was Shiva has already emphasized is it's a digital platform. It's a cloud support, cloud-based infrastructure what was provided to the team. Hence, one, it is available for all the team members. Second, the project team does not bear the cost. So they are encouraged and motivated to use these tools. Third point is that we, as part of our agile process deployment, we always used to check what tools they are using and whether how effective the agile processes would be without the usage of tools. So the idea there was to encourage, motivate team members to use more tools, which will help in deploying the agile processes in more effective way.
Yeah, honestly, we have become more greedy, and we are not limited only to the process part or the tool part, but want to bring this third element. So we fondly call this as an improvement, efficiency improvement. Okay, so the lean and the Kanban framework has been the integral part of this efficiency improvement, and it almost has become the lifeline of every project. So the detailed, the VSMs, the what needed, what is waste, what is not needed, helps us to clearly focus on this sub-process element. And thereby we could easily adapt the statistical techniques while we could able to use it in the process performance model. So the good part is that every team member, every project of the team member able to embrace this improvement framework, and more importantly, they could able to identify the way to optimize the process steps, but more importantly, without compromising on the quality. Since it has become the integral part and every project started using it, we could easily integrate with the process performance model. Just by the instance of this lean framework helps us to choose the better life cycle when we are exploring the options during the performance model as a part of planning. This lean or the Kanban framework was quite handy to understand what might be the right process flow to execute this project, and invariably we could able to execute by implementing this efficient framework. So this has become as I mentioned, this has become a lifeline. And I could see almost every project which is a more than of a 10-member team have at least 1 or 2 projects running this efficiency improvement activity.
Correct. I think Shiva, you can, yeah. So on the left-hand corner, you can see there is a repository which has been built by the team. It is almost, we have collated 140 plus case studies by using Lean or Kanban. And good part, I think Shiva has already emphasized the identifying the sub-processes which are critical for the success of the project, as well as to be used for the predicting the performance that the VSM tool as part of the Lean helped. And then this has also been identified in not only our CMMI assessment, but where other standards and audits. I can quote an example from TL 9000. The auditor had identified this as an org level best practice by which we could improve the performance across the life cycle.
Yeah, so with the key principle of the so-called inbuilt DPTC Agile framework, and more importantly, adopting the 3-layered approach of process plus debugability plus efficiency improvement, I could confidently say that we could implement this disciplined Agile. The proof of pudding is we could consistently achieving the big wins because of our Agile capability, and obviously our company strategic element and year-on-year targets was on upward skill with the underlying support of where we could able to predict our quality goals and more importantly, we could show the improvement on a yearly basis. So this is very clearly coming out from the achievements we achieved from the improved business performance, or we could able to do the enhanced data predictability, which might be the challenge in our earlier days. And more importantly, we could seamlessly integrate this continual improvement improvement initiative. As like everyone favorite, I am a big fan of MS Dhoni and would like to use this famous quote of believe in process and results will take care of it its own. And true to his word, so we emphasize on our process strengths. We took a lot of effort in setting up the right process, and results speaks on its own. So just to make sure that our delivery metrics are very, very consistent, we hardly miss any of the agreed commitment from the customers. There was absolutely no slippage from the content adherence. That invariably reflected in our CSAT rating. In the scale of 5, we are consistently having a target of 4.5. We are meeting to 4.8 and 4.85 sort of thing in the last 2-3 years sort of thing. And more importantly, our CSAT responses not only resulted in the upfillment of projects, it also reduced our new business model. We could able to adopt and make more releases. That way, customer also seems to be happy. And invariably, our efficiency improvement resulting in reduction of the field defects, which is appearing, and we could able to reduce significantly from the previous years. And just to summarize it, as I said, we started with the greedy element, but the greediness resulted in a big savings. And efficiency improvement has become our part of our journey. Every project has a way to identify a lean or a Kanban, or in case of a shift left mechanism, and try to identify the way to optimize their agreed process. So thereby, we could save at least an average 1 million per year, and closely to 2,000 with the months of effort, we could be able to save it. So this invariably helps us and confirms that whatever the way we took this approach of disciplined agile using this DBTC really worked wonders for us.
And I'll conclude it by saying we used to present this data to our CFO, and we used to say, PRIXIT, at least your team is working free for me. So that $1 million saving is almost leveraging our quality cost budget, and so that really helps actually.
Yeah, that's true. So thanks for the opportunity. So we are open to the question. I hope we are not exceeded the time.
Not at all, Siva and PRIXIT. It's an amazing thing, and glad to know that your CFO acknowledged your contributions, and I'm sure things are going great there. And I like the approach. I think the interesting thing as a takeaway for me here is that you certainly have to start with a good foundation, and then start focusing on agility, the development agility, and then taking it from there to actually dealing with predictability as part of your efficiency improvement. And I think that's the core ingredient and a takeaway for me from the talk. There are some very interesting questions. I'm sure that triggered a lot of debatable questions, at the same time some interesting questions. So I will pick the question. The first question, which was a very fundamental question from Praja, is what do you mean by content adherence as an agile metric? That's a fundamental question she probably has. So if you could throw some light, that will help a lot, Shiva and PRIXIT.
Yeah, so I'll take this. So continual adherence is a core metrics. Basically, at the beginning of every sprint or every project, I as a team agree what is my capacity and what is my number of stories I could able to deliver in a given sprint. The sprint normally goes in a cycle of 3 weeks or 4 weeks. So as a team, I agree whether I could able to deliver 10 stories or 12 stories. And if I'm going to agree for a 10 story, and the end of the sprint, if I'm going to deliver all the 10 stories, my content adherence will be 100%.
Perfect. So then the next question that comes up is, can you please let us know the sub-process or metrics which is baseline, and briefly explain the prediction model on content adherence and technical debt? That's what they were looking for.
Okay, so that's an interesting question from the perspective of the content adherence and and also the defect part. So we as I mentioned, we had a very good metric system where we could able to identify the velocity of each of these projects. Okay, so at the end of every sprint, the number of story points and also the number of engineers, we could able to arrive on the velocity. So velocity was taken as a factor, And the controlling factors are called sub-process factors is basically the number of stories I could agree upon the each sprint sort of thing. So based on the velocity and based on my capacity, I could able to control my factors or sub-control factors where I could predict with my current pass velocity and the capacity I have and the amount I have agreed of whether my prediction model is able to deliver it or not. Just to extend the same thing, let's say my velocity is 1 story per week or 1 story per sprint. And if I have a 10-member team, my capacity will be, assuming that my 10-member team works on 80% efficiency, I agree for 8 stories in a given sprint. But my past baseline shows that I can only deliver 7 stories. My probability of meeting my 8 stories will be showing it as is less than 70% or 80%. So that will trigger some sort of an option evolvement, whether I need to optimize my process, whether I should bring some automation, thereby you could able to identify whether I'm meeting or not. I hope it's a long answer, but I hope I missed.
No, absolutely. No, spot on there, Shiva. So the next question that triggers from that same train of thought is that when we speak about the performance model, the base measurement of the project or a size or an effort is mandatory. So in such a case, what estimation method or a model do you use?
Yeah, as when we define the framework, we had multiple options to do the estimation techniques. We use this T-shirt type estimation, which is predominantly the estimation technique we adopted. But there are cases, depends upon the techniques, we also identify multi models. But T-shirt estimation will be the base model for most of our internal customers. When we go work with the customer, we also have an opportunity of doing instead of T-shirt, we also had an opportunity of estimating through other function points, also very rare cases. But predominantly T-shirt estimates where we could have a reference point, and against the reference point we could able to estimate it.
Perfect. So, and that's certainly great. And there's a last question I'll take, given the time that we have. And for all the others who have posted the questions, we certainly, as I mentioned in the initial start, we will be sending these questions to the authors of these papers, specifically targeted to them. So they would certainly be answering, and we would be mailing those answers to all of you as well, to the attendees. So that way you'll have a clear Q&A documented with you. The last question, Shiva, before I move on to the next talk is, what's the prediction time frame for your PPMs? Are you predicting the range of likely outcomes at the end of the sprint for each release, at the end of each project? That's the question for you.
This is one more question. When we started the model, we started at the release. That's what we started it. And the way the data flowed in, we could also able to reduce the frequency where we started doing on a sprint perspective. Initially, when we set up the system, it was a release. The release was invariably a 3 months time or a 4 months time. The more the data came into the picture, we could able to predict, or I say the frequency of the prediction, the adherence, the probability, we could able to even do at the end of each sprint, say the third week or the 4th week itself. It needed some time, it needed some lead time, but the moment the process becomes mature, or I said discipline process, we could able to do it on an even more shorter sprints.
Correct. I think for a slightly projects which have a longer duration, Pradeep, you have the data and then you can predict it at a sprint level, as Shiva was saying. But yes, initially it takes time.
Perfect. No, I would love to keep conversing with both of you in greater detail, because I think what you presented kind of sparked a lot of conversation. A lot of questions are coming up, much more specific and technical questions for each one of you. I think you'll have your weekend completely full, in terms of answering all the things that you have performed. And absolutely amazing. And really, really thank you both, Shiva and PRIXIT, and love to hear more of this from you later. And I'll share with you what we have as a plan.